So where I come from, I'm from the newest country in the world. We were formed in 2011. It's called South Sudan. You guys might have heard of it. My parents are from here, and that's where I was born. Oh, not born, but that's where my parents are from. But I was born in Kenya. I was born here in Kenya, in a refugee camp. And then we migrated to Australia, best country in the world. Yeah. So, but today I just want to let you guys know about my story and how perseverance can change everything you do and set your mind into. So my parents migrated from Sudan, which was the largest country in the world before the split. And when they migrated, they did for one reason. There was a civil war between the north of Sudan and the south. The north was a Muslim majority, while the south was a Christian minority. So they fled 2,000 miles, which is equivalent to Brisbane to Melbourne walking. So they left from here, Sudan, to Ethiopia, where the government there had an issue with refugees. They didn't want refugees in the country. So they started shooting down refugees. So my parents and my brothers, they packed their stuff and walked again all the way to where I was born, which is Kakuma refugee camp. So when we got here, this is the journey they took. For 3 months, they were walking. Some died from starvation. Some got attacked by wild animals. And yeah. So the journey took 3 months. So the reason they escaped is because of betterment for their lives and to change themselves. Sudan had the longest war in Africa. So it was literally 50 years. That's a whole person's lifetime, I'm sure. And the journey they took from Sudan to Ethiopia to Kenya was with 20,000 people. By the time they got to Kakuma refugee camp, it was down to 11,000 people. So 50% of the people died. And Melbourne to Brisbane, I don't think I could do that, honestly. Definitely not. So I was born in the world's biggest refugee camp at the time. I lived there till I was 7 years old, and then we migrated to Australia. So this is Kakuma refugee camp. The houses were made out of mud and covered by UN tents. So as you can see, when I was living there, when I was born, I thought the whole world was like this. I didn't know there was anything else different than what we had at the time. So it was very eye-opening to see and come to Australia. So at the time, there was an opportunity from living in that camp to be migrated and relocated to a different place. And that was a process that took a while. When we got to when my parents got to Kakuma, just letting you know, I wasn't born by when they got there. They greeted with open hands. The UN gave them, they provided them tents for their makeshift houses. They provided them with 10 kilos of maize, corn flour. They gave them a gallon of oil. But this was for 3 months, and it was shared between 5 families. So you can imagine you'll go a day or two without eating, but it wasn't something surprising. It was something that people went through and lived with. And imagine that you have nine kids in my family, so it was yeah, crazy. So we heard that the UN was giving relocation to these countries such as US, Canada, Europe, Australia. So the opportunity, my parents, they rushed to it because they knew if we still lived in that camp, there could be a chance of us dying from starvation. So my parents, they filled out the paper. It took 2 to 4 years. It took us about 4 years and 8 months until we were granted asylum to Australia. So it was the best thing my parents ever did because it saved our lives and gave us more opportunities. So coming to Australia, oh man, it's amazing. So this was us when we first came. That's me in that jersey there, my family, my mom, and our sponsor family. So they introduced us. When we first came, we came to Hobart. Yeah, Tasmania. We literally stayed there for 6 months and we couldn't do it because where we come from, yeah. Actually, when we first landed in Hobart, it was snowing. So I've never seen anything called snow, so I was confused. I started crying. I didn't know what it was, literally. And this is me and my sister. When we were there, as you can see, I have no shoes because I was used to not wearing shoes, but in this modern world, you have to. So I started wearing them. So adaptation is one of the things that I realized that it really matters. Because when we came, everything was unfamiliar. The environment, the food, the people, the language. But we didn't let these get to us. We used it to prevail who we are. And we used it because as a kid I was curious. I wanted to learn that language because it sounded funny. I only knew a few words, hi and bye. So I wanted to learn the rest. And this is one of my favorite quotes by Theodore Roosevelt. There can be no life without change. And to be afraid of what is different or unfamiliar is to be afraid of life. So one thing I realized in life, you have to go out there and see what's there. You have to do things that the normal people don't, because it can result to great things. So I went back to Kenya in 2012. But before then, we moved from Hobart to New South Wales. Who's from New South Wales? Anyone? Okay, no? So we lived in a place called Wagga Wagga. Yeah, Wagga, yep. Stayed there for 6 years. And then we moved to Darwin. Anyone from Darwin? No, yeah, too hot. So we left there. And then we came to Brisbane. So we came to Brisbane. But I left in Darwin with my parents and went back to Kenya. So my dad offered me an education. He said, son, I would love you to know where you come from. And since you've been here in Australia as a kid, I believe it's time for you to go back and see where you come from. And go to school in a boarding school, which I did. And I went to Kipkeino. Some of you guys might know Kipchoge Keino. He's a world runner back in the days. And I went to this boarding school for 2 years. And when I went there, because when I came here when I was 7, so I thought, there's nothing better than Australia. So I basically forgot where I came from. So when I went back, it opened my eyes to the opportunity I had in Australia. That the people that are back there now are still struggling. And that to have this opportunity to be here, I can do a lot of things and change my life. And it showed me the importance of being given an opportunity where everything here is accessible. Education, food, and good people. So this was me in Eldoret, Kenya. That's the school I went to. Yeah. So when I came back to Australia, 2 years in a boarding school with no phone, just you and the nature, you and everyone else. It gave me a chance to come back here with a vision that I can change people's lives. And that's where we lived, by the way. So I was fired up by the inspiration that I can do things that a lot of people can't do, because being in 2 separate places gave me a chance. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew it was going to be something big. I knew it could change. It had the chance to change people's lives. So I started investing in myself. I started reading books. I started self-development. I started just focusing on betterment of myself if I want to betterment other people. And I had the burning desire. I had this burning desire so I started learning about entrepreneurship, financial education, and self-development. And I learned that entrepreneurship is identifying a problem and finding ways to solve it. So these are some of my inspirations. Yeah, so because they've contributed a lot to the world, and what they've done is totally amazing. Yeah. So it was 2017, so one day I was coming home from a night shift I did at work, and I was very fatigued, and I came to the garage at home, and I thought I pressed the brake, but it was accelerated. And I went straight into the garage. I hit the back wall, and the whole, not the whole house, but half of it fell off, and it was the bricks. So I found out that, hey, in life, even though something bad happens, there's a way that you can turn it into good. And I banged into the brick wall, and I found out actually I can do something about it. So I came up with an idea that I can make sustainable bricks from my observations back in Kenya. So people back home, they don't live in good conditions, especially in the rural areas where they don't have that much. So the conditions that they had of the houses were not good. So that life-threatening situations because of their housing, like they had to malaria, unsanitary conditions, unsafe houses, and the structures were weak. And most people back home, in my home country, South Sudan, 60% of the people live in mud huts, which are weak structures and are able to flood easily at any time. So, like, these are the photos of what you can see here. So these issues are noticed, and the accident that I went through gave me an idea that bricks are important. And daily life in Australia, you think, oh, it's just a brick. It's nothing significant. But when I look back at it, these bricks are actually significant because it protects a person from a lot of things, and it's a safe environment. It's a safe home. So the way that they make conventional bricks back home are they're not good because it has deforestation because of the way they make bricks. They fire them up. The demand for housing back home, especially in the rural areas where people have no access to good housing and poor housing constructions. being used. So back home the project I'm doing is in Kenya. And the solution that I've come up with for my second project is to make interlocking bricks, which are easy and sustainable for the environment. This can result into decent, affordable housing for people that are disadvantaged. It can be good for health clinics, employment of local people. Clay resources are available everywhere, and the Nile River brings a lot of slip, which is used for the molding of the bricks. And one person employed can support a lot of family members. Yeah. So my inspiration grew because of what I saw and what I can do back home. So I came up with Sunhouse Bricks. My aim for it is a social enterprise which has the factor that can help people, especially people that are disadvantaged, help in local communities, build schools, clinics, create jobs, safer houses, less diseases, and reduce malaria. So the mission is to provide building products that can enhance the lives of many, and to manufacture affordable and quality bricks. So I'll show you the bricks first. This is a manual brick machine. It's very simple to use and is an easy technology, which can change the lives of many and this is a semi-automatic brick machine. So the manual machine is for two people. Two men can make 500 bricks a day. The semi-auto can make 20,000 bricks a day. And the reason why these are important is because there needs to be a change in the way people live, especially back in Kenya and South Sudan. So there's a roadmap for 2021. Is when I want to kick off this project back home in Kenya. So my plan is to employ 12 people, 10 part-time, 2 full-time. I want to begin building the project, the construction for the warehouse where we can handle the manufacture of the bricks. Want to purchase the brick machines and train staff with friends from University of Eldoret, which is the town where we'll be doing this project. So we'll be running the manual, myself and friends from the University of Eldoret. So the support team are friends back home there and some here. They're my support team. I'm planning to consult with local brick manufacturers for the process and ways that they can help in any way. So I'm looking for financial support and mentoring as well. It's viable to use manual machines because they are cheaper and more effective because it can employ people. I've already have the land that was given to me by my father. The location is perfect for the bricks to be sold and for the bricks to be delivered to the rural areas. The bricks are easily transported to where the house will be built. And the bricks, the manual machines cost $450 each. And it's very simple, yeah. So I want you guys, in any way possible, please get involved. Provide expertise if you know anyone or yourself. You can make a donation through, we'll talk about that. And if you want, join us on a trip to Africa. I'm sure it will be great for you guys to come there and see what it's all about. And there's a lot of nice places. Yeah. So if you want to help build the project, please join me, and I'll be here if you need any questions. Thank you.
So, now, getting back to reaching across the table and slapping someone. Did you get the bit about 50% death rate on the march? This is in our lifetime. We're not talking about 100 years ago. This is a couple of years ago. 50% casualty rate. That's appalling. Anyway, he's wholly funded the first charity, and this is his next one. So if you can put some gold coins in here, it'd be good. If you want to talk to Thiong later, because he's already a member in Carapace, about donating some coins after Hard Fork, go and talk to him. Because this is a worthwhile project. So I don't know what everybody thinks about where this is all going, but I think I'm looking forward to actually going over there.